Day 2 of hiking was fantastic. It took us 21.7 kilometers from Roncevalles to Zubiri, and it took us 33,000 steps to do it. It was a really long, challenging hike, but it was a beautiful day. They always say the first day is the hardest of the hike, of the whole Camino, and I would say that is true. But the second day is not simple either. The second day is a lot of work, lots of ups, lots of downs. Most of it you're in the forest, so you're in beautiful, beautiful countryside almost the entire way. The hardest part is probably the last 4 kilometers, and it is steep, and it is rough, and it is rocky, so definitely be prepared for that. If you're someone who is debating whether you want to get poles or not, they're really useful on that last 4 kilometers of the second day. We ended up staying in an albergue called Sucia. It was a really cute, really sweet place, lovely owner, very accommodating. It cost us 44 euros together. And for that, we got a private room for 2 with a shared bathroom, which was fine by us. It was nice to have a little private space after those first 2 long days. The only drawback of that albergue is that it's a little further from the other albergues. So if you are really thinking you're going to be worn out by the end of that second day, then this might be a little far. It's not that far though. We had a rough second day and we made it there no problem. For breakfast, we had one that we had bought from the Roncevalles albergue, and that was, I think, $9 each. And then for dinner, we just went to a grocery store, and so it didn't cost very much. We bought some salads and some yogurts for the morning. Day 2 was pretty fantastic, and we're excited about showing you more.
So we're having a great day of walking, and I just wanted to talk about a question that I see get posted all the time on Facebook groups and some of the forums, where people are looking for validation, and they say, am I too old to walk the Camino? Or am I too sick to walk the Camino? Do I have too many issues that I might need help with? Is it possible for someone like me to walk the Camino? And what I want to say, based on what we have seen and experienced, is yes, I think the Camino is available to anyone, with a couple of considerations. I think you need to think about, before you get ready to plan your Camino, you need to think about 3 things. 1, you need to have awareness of what your own physical limitations actually are. 2, you need to think about time that you have. And 3, you need to think about the money you're going to spend. And if you can figure out those 3 things, you can figure out the Camino. So the first thing is to be aware of your physical limitations. So like, we are walking the Camino Frances. It's 500 miles, and typically people take 30, 35 days to walk it. So we're walking on average, say 15 miles a day. You need to know if you can walk 15 miles a day for 30 days, basically in a row. If you can do that, then great. If you can't, that's still okay. There are still Caminos that you can walk. So you need to know, like, are you comfortable walking 10 miles a day? Are you comfortable walking 6 miles a day? There are lots of little villages along the way. You don't have to walk exactly how everyone else walks and stay on the same stages. You can walk a slower pace. You can walk a shorter distance. You just have to figure it out. So you need to get really comfortable with your own body and figure out how far you are comfortable walking every day. The other thing you need to think about is just any physical limitations that you have. Like, if you book a room in an albergue, you might get assigned in a top bunk. Like, can you physically climb the steps, the ladder to get up to that top bunk? Do you need to make sure you have like a CPAP machine that you need to be able to plug in right next to your bed every night? Do you have, medication that needs to be, chilled and refrigerated as you walk? You need to think about all those kinds of things of what makes sense for you, and just know what they are and know that you can plan around it. You can figure it out. Okay? The next thing you just have to consider is time. How many days do you have to hike, to walk? It's going to look different. Your Camino will look different if you have, 8 days as opposed to if you have 90 days. The longer you have, the more options you're going to have for how far you want to walk, but you just need to figure out what your maximum amount of time is that you're able to walk. Now, just as an aside, for Americans who are coming to Europe, generally you've got 90 days is the maximum you're allowed to stay on the visa for Schengen rules. So 90 is probably the maximum. Coming from other places, your rules might be different. If you're already in Europe, then you might not have to worry about that at all. It's just as how much time can you get off from work or whatever. Are you retired? Are you a long-term traveler? Are you taking a vacation and so you only have a certain amount of days? You just need to know exactly how many days you have. Thirdly, you need to know how much money you have to spend, because that's going to help you figure out, like, maybe you don't want to carry your bag every day and you want to get it ported ahead for you. That is completely an option. It's just going to cost you. We've heard different numbers, but everything I keep seeing says €8 a day now. I think it's gone up a little bit. But if you want to add €8 into your budget every day, you can have your bag shipped ahead and you don't have to carry a bag. If you want to stay in private rooms, or if you want to stay in hotels or Airbnbs, like, yes, you can get a €12 a night bed in a dorm room, or you can spend €100 a night and get a hotel. Not every little village is going to have a hotel, but there are places along the way. It just depends on what you're going to be comfortable with, of what feels safe to you, and what you have the money to spend on. Once you figure out those three things, you're going to be able to work out which Camino is going to be the best for you. For the rules, if you're like concerned, and not everyone is, but if you are concerned about, having that official Compostela at the end that's saying that you officially walked the Camino, then you have to walk 100 kilometers or about 62 miles to be official in that way. And so a lot of people on the Camino Frances, especially if you're worried about having the amenities that you need to keep yourself safe, the Camino Frances is probably a good route. It's the most crowded route. It's probably going to be the more expensive route, but you're going to have a lot more options along the way in the smaller villages than if you get on some of the more remote trails. And so a lot of people start in Sarria. It can take as little as 6 days. But if you want to walk only 4 or 5 miles a day, you could make it last a lot longer than that. It just depends on what you have time for and what you want to do. Basically, I'm saying all of that to say you can make it work. If you want to do the Camino, it does not matter how old you are. I'll tell you, the first day we were coming up out of St. John Pied-de-Port, and I was huffing and puffing. It was the steepest part of the trail. And this older woman, she must have been 70, just sped past me, like left me in her dust, like I wasn't even moving. There are a lot of older people who can be very fit and be very ready. But if you're not, we've seen a lot of those kind of people too, who are struggling a little bit more, but they're still out here and they're still doing it and they're still figuring it out a way to make it work. And you can do that too. So if you want that validation, ask away on the forums and in Facebook groups. Do you think I can do this? But I'm here to tell you, if you want to do it, you can figure out a way. You just need those 3 pieces to figure out, and you're going to be good to go. I hope you have a great time planning your Camino, because if you want to do it, you really should. It's amazing. Buen Camino.
Today and not tomorrow.